The 2020 year for gaming has been anything but weird. First, we started off with COVID-19, which if you're around, absolutely just shut down the world and had a huge impact on gaming. And 2020 became an absolute dumpster fire. So in an instance, game does reports to change their works out for games to adjust to the horrible virus. As a result, we got unfinished games, like a lot of unfinished games. Almost every AAA game that was released in 2020 or 2021 was released in an unfinished buggy state. And if not in an unfinished state, it would have to be delayed and delayed and delayed to the point where we can't just trust release dates anymore. Like come on, when the hell are we getting Starfield announced its crap in 2018? Even with the new consoles, a lot of games haven't been really living up to the hype. So let's look back and check out all the horrible buggy unfinished games that have been released in the past year or so in this mediocre video. Call of Duty Vanguard might be one of the most least surprising game on this list, since Call of Duty has been going downhill ever since Call of Duty Ghosts focused a freaking presentation on dog models. Ever since that, the game started to decrease in quality. Advanced Warrior being a failure mess, Black Ops 3 having a horrible campaign,
And they took it hard. Outcome? Train go boom.
and World War II might as well been marketed as an online casino, and Call of Duty Vanguard absolutely blows them out of the water by managing to literally be one of the most laziest generic Call of Duties I have ever played. First, the campaign, which is absolutely horrible in the fact of historical accuracy. The game just puts together a ragtag team of fighters that shouldn't even fight together to find a fourth fight that doesn't even exist. The storytelling feels like something that you can find at your local dollar store. The characters are generic and has no life in them whatsoever, and the campaign just doesn't do anything unique or special from any other Call of Duties or even the whole FPS genre as a whole. The multiplayer is another example of Activision's money-hungry business practices. Like, it does not feel like a World War II game, to the point where they added a laser gun and brought back villains from other Call of Duties to keep the game from dying. Like, what the frick? If you're gonna make a World War II video game, at least stick to this setting, but regardless, the game feels lifeless, unfinished, plagued with horrible balancing issues, and spawns that are actually ridiculous. The multiplayer is literally just a place to level up weapons for Warzone. That's literally what it's for. Lastly, the zombies, which I'll talk about very briefly, is a definition of unfinished material. At launch, they remove everything you love about zombies and sold it to you for $60. And when I say everything, I mean everything. They remove rounds, wall weapons, Easter eggs, bosses, interactive environments, pack-a-punch camos, individual zombie camos, a wonder weapon, and even the freaking ray gun. How the hell do you make a COD Zombies game without the ray gun? Overall, just horrible. It's borderline embarrassing to have these patched later for quote-unquote since it's live service. In short, Activision just absolutely demolished the low expectations we had for this game by managing to make a game that actually fared lower than the low expectations we already had. Battlefield 2042 was one of the most hyped up games of the decade. Its trailers were amazing, its gameplay looked amazing, and overall everything looked amazing. But in classic EA fashion, the game was released in a horrendous state and became one of the most disappointing and horrible games of the year. Not to mention its competition was Call of Duty Vanguard, and still managed to be worse than the actual abomination Vanguard was. The game released with no campaign to fully focus on the multiplayer, which didn't even feel like it was focused on at all. The game was literally littered with bugs, and borderline became unplayable for some people. On top of that, the game released with essential features not even present. Like, the list is abnormally huge. A lot of big features like voice chat, field upgrades, kill bonuses, boats, ammo or health pickups, standard multiplayer modes like Team Deathmatch, and vaulting over walls, like what the frick? And that's not even scratching the surface of removed features. It doesn't stop there, as they promise to patch these in the near future since it's a live service game. Like, what? I have to wait 5 total months for voice chat? It's literally a game where you team up with squads and are supposed to talk to each other. They released this game unfinished to the bone. EA didn't even care if core features on every FPS game to be removed, just to get the game on time for maximum profit. The game was released with 22 weapons, 7 maps, and over 1,000 bugs at launch. Battlefield 2042 could literally be a game that was only 7 months into development, and with the hilariously low Steam players playing it, It's only a matter of time until Battlefield 2042 accepts its fate as one of the most unfinished games in the history of gaming. Cyberpunk 2077 was also really hyped up. It had Keanu Reeves as a character in the game and promised to be one of the best open world games in the history of gaming. But that quietly didn't happen, as we all know, as this game was an absolute dumpster fire.
What?
Everyone was surprised and certainly did not think this game was breathtaking. And the developers behind this game, CD Projekt Red, were doing just fine, actually amazing. They had just come off of making one of the best games of the decade, or even all time, The Witcher 3. And people had high hopes for Cyberpunk 2077 because of that. Instead, we got a game that didn't even work for most people. The game was released in an unfinished mess and borderline unplayable, multiple characters disappearing, missions not working, and iconically literally every NPC had a T-pose on like it was the only thing they were programmed to do. The game didn't feel as alive as the devs said. The city was not immersive as the bugs made it almost impossible to actually focus on anything. And even if there was no bugs, the game just felt like an abandoned city rather than what they call Night City. The game was so bad, PlayStation had to remove it from its store and almost everyone refunded the game. It was also mentioned in a recent investigation that the E3 2018 demo the game showed was completely fake and CGI. Like, why? Why fake a supposed gameplay demo if it's not even the real thing? Overall, Cyberpunk 2077 is a mess. It was rushed, buggy, and embarrassment to gaming as a whole. It's a shame because it had the potential, and from what I heard, the story isn't half bad. Well, when it's working. But the worst thing about this game is it got a freaking 9 out of 10 from IGN. Overall, unfinished games have been sort of tradition now. More and more games come out being either rushed or borderline unplayable. I plan on making a part 2 to this if the video goes well, because there are so many unfinished games that are waiting to be talked about. But for now, that's the end of another mediocre video.